Welcome back. Now we're going to look at unsafe and safe cast operators, and they are useful because sometimes you just need to cast something, right? So you have something in a specific type and you need to cast it in another type, and that's where the as keyword comes in. And this is an unsafe cast operator. Sometimes it is not possible to cast a variable and it throws an exception, and this is called an unsafe cast. The unsafe cast is performed by the infix operator as, and let's have a look at an example here. A nullable string with a question mark here cannot be cast to a non-nullable string. So a string without the question mark, because this then throws an exception. So let's look at this function main here. We have this value object of a type any nullable, which is null. And then we have this value string or str, which is of type string. And what we try to do is we try to cast object as string, and then print that string that we created. So the problem is that we get an error here, an exception to be precise. It says exception in thread main Kotlin type cast exception, null cannot be cast to non-null type in Kotlin string. So here, of course, this doesn't work because the object of type any nullable is actually null, so it's empty. But this throws an error, so this really crashes our software, our program, and we want to avoid that at all costs, right? So what can we do? Well, let's have a look in a second. But first, it generates a class cast exception. Trying to cast an integer value of the any type into a string type leads to a class cast exception. So here we have object of type any 1 2 3, and we try to cast that to a string. So we say val string or str of type string should be object as string. This throws a class cast exception because any could be any type, right? It just interprets whatever data it gets, and it interprets in this case that 123 is an integer. So it's going to say that integer cannot be cast to a string. We need to use another approach here, right? We cannot cast. We would need to use type conversion or parsing here. All right. So now let's look at an example where this actually works. So the source and the target variable need to be nullables for casting to work. So here we have the object any, which is of type nullable. So we have this question mark and has a string in there. So a string is hidden, so to speak, in the any object. And then we have a string which is also a nullable. So what we can do is we can say object should be cast into a string. So it should be of type string nullable. So this will output the string unsafe cast. There is an operator, however, which makes our life even easier. So there is something called safe cast operator. And the as question mark, so the safe cast operator, provides a safe cast operation to safely cast to a type. It returns a null if casting is not possible, rather than throwing an class cast exception. Okay, so this is very good because then our program will not crash. If it doesn't work, it will just return null. All right, so here, example of safe cast operation. So we have a location which is of type any, and it actually is a string, right? So in the background there's a string, and as you can see, it's not nullable any. Then we have a safe string, which is a string that is a nullable, and what it tries to do, it tries to get the location as a string. So it uses the safe cast operation here. Then we have a safe int, which is an integer nullable, and it tries the same thing. So it tries to get the location as an integer. But of course, a text cannot be an integer, right? Or at least a word, as we see here, Kotlin, cannot be of type integer, not even integer nullable. It will just be null, right? So the output here is Kotlin and null. All right, Kotlin for the safe string and null for the safe int, because it wasn't able to convert it, because Kotlin is not convertible or castable, so to speak. It's not castable into an integer. All right, so that's it for unsafe and safe casting operators for now. And yeah, further in the course, we will use it, and then it will make a lot more sense, because here the examples, of course, are very abstract and they are very purpose driven, but later on we will see how it actually is going to work. All right. So see you in the next video.